The last thing we'll look at in this unit is the idea of cellular hierarchy and differentiation. This is a big difference between unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms, because unicellular organisms, every cell has to carry out every function for that organism to survive, to get its food, to eat, to do everything it needs to do, because there's no other cells to help it out, where multicellular organisms can specialize in their cells a bit. So just to kind of go through the hierarchy of everything, the smallest thing that makes up life is atoms, and we know atoms combine to make molecules. Those molecules make macromolecules, and some of those you learned about already. Carbohydrates and lipids are examples of those, proteins, things like that. And of course the smaller ones that make them up, the simple sugars that make up the carbohydrates, the amino acids that make up the proteins, etc. Those macromolecules can make up organelles, like we'll learn about in our cell unit here in just a little bit. Well, the ones you've already learned some of them about, but we'll learn a little bit more specifically about things like the cell membrane, what makes that up, and what makes up DNA. Once we get these organelles, this is the mitochondria here. You can see that's part of a larger cell, and a cell is the basic unit that carries on all characteristics of life. However, they can be specialized in their function, as certain genes are expressed based on where they are in the body. They can carry on more specific functions. So here we've got a group of cells that makes up what's called a tissue, and this one looks like it's a muscle tissue that's going to be lining the stomach here, which is an organ, and the stomach, of course, is a big part of the digestive system there. And you've got other organs in the digestive system like the colon and the small intestines, the esophagus, etc. So in humans we have these specialized cells, and a lot of organisms have these that carry on specific functions, and they've actually done various experiments with gene expression to show that if you can get a gene that was supposed to make an eye, you can put it on the ear of a mouse and an eye will start to grow there. It won't be able to see because there's no optic nerve to connect to. But depending on where things are, especially in the embryo and developing, certain genes are expressed so that not all cells look exactly alike. We even have different types of muscle cells, whether they're smooth muscles or not, for the involuntary systems and for voluntary systems. But that's the reason why every single cell in our body has the exact same DNA, but not all of that DNA is used. And it really depends on where you are in the body and in the embryo when it's developing. But that's a wonderful function of multicellular organisms, where the unicellular, since it has to carry everything on, will be pretty much the same.